Hey, what's good, everybody? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy, AK Harrison, from whoisaKHarrison.com. You can also catch me at the blog spot at bigmoneytrucker.com, man. Hey, it is the eve of the 4th of July. Happy Independence Day to all of you Americans out there. And thanks to all the veterans for serving this great country that we serve, that we live in. Without you guys, we would not be able to enjoy the liberties that come with living in America. Thank you guys for your service. Thank you for your dedication to your country, patriotism. Thank you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Without you guys, we would not have this great country that we live in, and we would not be able to enjoy these liberties. Thank you guys. And that is the reason why, with so many liberties and so many benefits that come with living in America, people will break the law to just to get here, just to experience the American experience, the American dream. America does a very good job with presenting the idea that America is the land of milk and honey. If you can come here, you will be rich, you can be famous, you can have the lifestyles of the rich and famous. You can have anything your heart's desire here in America, and people are willing to risk their freedom and their lives just to get here in America. Okay. They watch these TV shows that's based on New York City, and they see the New York City lifestyle and it's like, hey, I can do that too. And they see these TV shows that's based out of Los Angeles, California, and in Malibu, California. They're like, hey, I can do that too. In Miami, hey, I want to live that life too. And all of these great American cities that do a great job telling a story about living in America, living in their city, living in their region. If you're in Denver, Colorado, you see those beautiful mountains in the backdrop, and those people, they come here undocumented, and they like, hey, I want to do that too. I have a talent. I can offer something to the American people. I'm skilled. I have skills. I have talent. And I should be able to partake in America because there is a message that has been pushed historically that America is the land of immigrants, okay? And for many, 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 many moons, America is and was thrived on immigrants, right? Okay. Other than the Native American, everybody's pretty much an immigrant here. If we're gonna go ahead and keep it all the way 1,000, right? Since the beginning of America, let's talk 1300s. Okay, let's go way back. The Native American was here. Okay, and then you had the Spanish. The Spanish, they came here. The French, they came here, and then once the British got here, that kind of changed everything, right? Okay, then the British, they settled here. They kind of changed everything, how everything is ran here. Okay, then the British got here, and then they started implementing the slave trade. I bought Africans over here to help build up the country. That was the first documented um, lesson of, or the first history of undocumented workers or undocumented people being here, like the slaves, okay? Because they wasn't necessarily considered people back then, they were considered property, right? So that's the first historical context of human beings being exploited, right? The first real benefit of undocumented workers, benefit in America, and America benefited so much that they had 400 years of undocumented workers. Okay? So you have 400 years of undocumented workers doing, or 400 years of unpaid labor. Let me say that 400 years of unpaid labor by, yeah, I could say that undocumented workers, because they're not even considered humans. They're not considered workers. They're considered property. You know, just like you would have a horse that does work, you would have a goat that would do work, you would have cow that would do work. Those humans were undocumented. They were considered 3/5 human. Okay, 3/5 human. So for 400 years, humans, subhumans, help benefit build the country. America benefiting from free labor. Okay. And then we move forward then as America established itself and freed the slaves. Then we start to build railroad, we start to build transportation systems, and then we start to explore the great west, okay? Manifest destiny. And then we start to get into the history of the Louisiana Purchase, and then we get into the land that we know as Texas, all the way down to California, and all of that land was once Mexico and it's now America. And Mexicans are taking claim and saying that, hey, this land is stolen land, and that this land should be for everybody since it was stolen. Okay. Now, on American records, that land said that it was purchased. It was purchased. Okay. Now we already know that sometimes in history can be documented, and whoever is the who has the power to push the pen, they can write history how they see it. Okay. But I'm gonna just go with what history says, that that land was purchased. All of that land was purchased. Okay. And but there's another way that you can conquer and take over land, and that's by war, by force. I don't believe that we are in position to be having a war, because like I already said, we have a great military. I was just giving a shout out to the military that we do have here. We have a strong military presence here in America and all over the world, just to secure and protect and to make sure things don't go sideways. Okay, we want to protect our borders. We want to protect what we have. And in the case that we can't protect what we have by force, by brute strength, we create laws. Okay, we can't control necessarily what goes on in Mexico. We can't control what goes on in Canada, but we can control what goes on within the confines of America. That's why we create laws. We can't control what goes on in my home. I can't control what goes on in my neighbor's home to my left or my neighbor's home across the street. But whatever that goes on in my home, I have law and dominion there. And America created laws for its citizens. Okay, these laws will protect them, their assets, their things, their rights. And the only way that you can partake in the safety of that, if you're legally here, if you are an American citizen. Okay. And if you are here illegally, if you end up getting here illegally, you may get away with living here in America and somewhat live a normal lifestyle. You know, you may get up, go to work. Um, you may even start a family, begin to purchase things here. You may be able to get a cash car. You could probably find a nice trailer to rent. You may even find a trailer that you can even purchase cash money, because here in America, America is a land that is up for sale. Okay. Anything you want, you can purchase it if you have enough money to do so. Even if you were to go to court, I do believe, and go to jail, I do believe, depending on how high you are on the earning salary, on the earning potential, you could probably buy your way out of trouble. Okay. You know, a couple of $100 million can go a long way here in America. You know, a few billion here in America can take you, you can do almost anything you want to here. Okay. So, even on a smaller scale, right? If even on a smaller scale, if you have enough cash money, like I said, you can purchase a cash car so you can drive around. Okay. You can drive around. Even if you can't speak English, right? You could probably even get you a driver's license. Okay. And you may not even necessarily need to have English speaking. You may not even be able to speak English, and you can get you a driver's license if you have the right money, if you know the right people. And what we are going to do is just take a look at a couple of news articles or videos that I came across that's going to support that. Hey, you know, even if you have, even if you don't speak English, you can probably get you a nice driver's license. And in this instance, you can get you a commercials driver's license, which is a certification to drive an 18 wheeler and potentially earn money. Okay, you can earn money just like that. You can earn you a trade.
Ohio, and Dallas, and here are your top stories. 8 employees for the DMV were arrested for selling driver's license to more than 1,000 illegal migrants without.
All right, so we have over, that number is crazy. Let's go to that number again.
Arrested for selling driver's license to more than 1,000 illegal migrants without making them go through testing, training, or vetting in what authorities are calling a major driver's license fraud scheme.
All right, so you have 8 employees who gave out over 1,000 driver's license or commercial driver's license, which is a certification that says that this person can drive a commercial vehicle here in the United States. This person can make a living driving trucks in the United States of America, not only in the state of Florida, but in the entire country. Now, I was saying that, look, even if you got money, you can get out of trouble. But even if you have just enough money, because let me see, to go to CDL school, the average cost would be around about $3,000-4,000, maybe $6,000. Okay, and you'll have to do that for somewhere between a month to 3 months. Okay, then you're out with a trainer to train how to operate a truck. Okay, and then you become a certified commercial driver's license of an 18-wheeler, of a semi truck. Okay, but if you have enough money, you can buy your way through. There is a underground working force in America where if you do have enough cash, you can buy your way through here. There's an underground system that will allow you to get by. Now, look how it impacted not only that, not only the idea that there is an underground system that can impact those thousands of fraudulent CDL holders, but now you have families right here of American citizens who are impacted as well. Maybe these people have loved ones at the house, family that's counting on them to make money, to make money to for anything, to go to school with, to pay daycare with, to pay, your rent, mortgages, and all of this other stuff, paying for uh trips to the beautician. Okay, these people families are impacted by the underground system, by the undocumented workers, illegal migrants, man. Okay, and let's just keep on watching.
They accepted cash payments to bypass the mandatory requirements such as written tests, skills tests, and proof of residency or legal presence. The more than 1,000 non-domiciled CDLs were allegedly sold from a single DMV office in Florida. A non-domiciled CDL is a commercial driver's license issued by a state to individuals not domiciled in that state, meaning people who do not have their primary legal residence or permanent home in the state. So illegal migrants who don't even live in the state of Florida were being issued CDLs without having to go through any required testing.
All right, so and how that is done usually is with the CDL schools. They're all over the country. Okay, and many of their students, they come from out of state to get their CDLs. Okay, I went to a school in Indiana. I think it was Premier Trucking School, and I've gotten my permit in Indiana, but I had to get my actual card from the state of Florida. Ironic how that happened, right? Okay, and that's very normal for most CDL holders. They'll end up traveling to another state, another city to get their CDL, um, because most trucking companies, they're not in areas where I would say that most people who drive trucks where they're from. They're just not. So you will have to go there to go get your CDL, and then get your hard copy card someplace else. Okay, and that's normal, and that's a normal practice. So it seems like there is a opportunity to exploit a common practice there. Okay. You have the opportunity to exploit a loophole and exploit opportunities for potential CDL holders, potential truck drivers. If you are a skilled driver in the state or in the country of Mexico, maybe I'll go. I'm just giving a scenario. Take you on a road test, see if you can operate a truck, and then you can operate the truck and not kill anybody. Then let's go ahead and take a picture of this person right here and put whatever residence down for them as their domicile, and take their money and keep it going, keep it pushing. And that's a very common practice. And let's do that 1,000 times over.
In this case, the licenses were allegedly issued to illegal migrants without verifying eligibility, legal presence, or driving competency.
Oh,
This violates.
see, they didn't even see if they could even operate the vehicle. Sheesh. That's crazy. Let's go back to that.
I'm Christina. Licenses were allegedly issued to illegal migrants without verifying eligibility, legal presence, or driving competency. This violates federal and Florida state requirements, which mandate proof of residency for first-time CDL applicants. American Truckers United sent out a warning about this very issue 4 months ago, alleging that Florida was one of 10 states, including California, Illinois, New York, Texas, and Pennsylvania, that are flooding the trucking industry with illegal foreign labor.
Hold on, 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 hold on. All right, so the ATU has been doing this research, and they've named some states that's in on the scheme.
Florida was one of 10 states, including.
So we got 10 states that's, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's more than 10. But I see what they're highlighting. They're highlighting the blue states. Okay.
California, Illinois,
Illinois,
New York,
New York,
Texas, and Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Okay, all of these major states. Okay. All right, so you got California that's in on the game, Texas that's in on the game, Florida that's in on the game, New York and Pennsylvania that's in on the game, and Illinois that's in on the play. Okay. And you'll keep hearing more and more how these different states and these different politicians from this state saying that, hey, our our city needs these undocumented workers to do the work, okay? Which is crazy to me because I'm like, okay, well, because if that's the why don't you hire the local people who are here that's in the country? Why don't you pay a fair wage? And let's just go ahead and be real about this thing too now. Truck driving is supposed to be one of those jobs where it was a pathway to the middle class, or it was a nice middle class job. So that lets me know that the value of a CDL has gone down tremendously. It used to be one of those professions where you can sustain a middle class lifestyle. You could support your family, send your kids to school as a CDL holder. You could do that. As a commercial truck driver, you could do that. Let's finish watching this.
that are flooding the trucking industry with illegal foreign labor.
And it said that it's flooding the market. That's because, okay. And in trucking, as in with all things, whether it's work, there is this thing called supply and demand. Supply and demand. The more of something there is, it brings the value down. Look, there is there's a reason why everybody isn't a truck driver because they can't do it. There is a reason why everybody isn't a doctor. Everyone can't do it. There is a reason why everybody isn't a dentist because everybody can't do it. Everybody just can't wake up and say, hey, I'm going to get my medical practitioner's license. You can't do it. Why? Because even if you wanted to, there is a cap on how many doctors can be in the industry. There is a cap on certain professions. Even if, and with that cap being on the medical field, the dentistry, their salaries can maintain its high classism, right? Because there's a demand for them. Even a general practitioner, his salary is high. You know, the demand for a brain surgeon, the salary of that guy, he's pretty high. And even though companies and even in the country want to say that CDL holders, you could get one a dime a dozen, but you really can't. You really can't. Everybody can't do the job. It's one of those jobs where it takes a particular individual to be able to live over the road, to live in solitude for weeks and months at a time. It takes a special individual to do that job and to bring in people um, illegally to undermine the already working class that's already here in America. That's just bad business. It's bad business. The middle class, the working class American is really suffering, not only from the people who come across the border trying to get a job, but from the people who actually hire these people who make the laws and make it easy for these people to come across and get these CDLs and get these licenses. So you have the middle class definitely getting crushed from the migrants, the illegal migrants, and the folks who are the lobbyists and the people who make the laws and front the bill. Let's go ahead and continue watching.
They asserted that the scheme is part of a broader nationwide problem, with DMVs in multiple states issuing CDLs to illegal migrants en masse, potentially to undercut American truckers by providing cheaper labor. Many are now pointing to an incident in March of this year where 37-year-old Solomon Weldakil Araya crashed his semi-truck into 17 vehicles in Austin, Texas.
Let's run that back. Let's run that one back. Wow.
Pointing to an incident in March of this year where 37-year-old Solomon Weldakil Araya crashed his semi-truck into 17 vehicles in Austin, Texas. Araya's tractor trailer that was carrying goods for Amazon failed to slow down. 5 people were killed at the scene, including a child and an infant. 11 others were injured and taken to local hospitals. Araya was arrested by the Austin Police Department. He was initially issued a $1.2 million bond, but it was reduced to $7,000.
And these stories right here, it breaks my heart first and foremost because this person wasn't even supposed to be driving. This person isn't even supposed to be here. And here's the thing, he was pulling the Amazon trailer, so on surface it's like he is doing a service for the people who order their goods on Amazon. Damn. You needed those shoes, didn't you? You needed those clothes, didn't you? You needed those product. You needed those things off of Amazon. We didn't have enough workers. Amazon didn't have enough workers to cover the high demand. But he doesn't drive for Amazon. He drives for a contractor. He drives for a company that pulls Amazon trailers and pulls Amazon freight. So he isn't necessarily the problem. The company that he works for might be part of the issue. Amazon, definitely throw them in there as well, but then there is the American people. Okay, how much weight are you willing to play in the demise of the American worker and how illegal migrants are really impacting America?
Araya bonded out with conditions including GPS monitoring, random drug tests, and a ban on driving commercial vehicles.
I don't think he needs a drug test because those people, they don't necessarily partake how we partake in drugs, man. But flight risk, definitely.
The truck was registered to ZBN Transport LLC, a Dallas-based for-hire carrier contracted by Amazon. ZBN stated Araya passed background checks and had been with the company for 4 months.
All right. So let's see what the mayor has to say about Los Angeles.
Let's go live now. The Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Hi.
Hold up. Karen Bass got on TV and said that Los Angeles needs undocumented workers and that like 40% of her workforce was undocumented workers. And I just want to find that. Hopefully I can find that clip, but it looked like everything is pretty. Yeah, that's not just hard. Let's see.
People have asked me, what are the Marines going to do when they get here? That's a good question. I have no idea. The National Guard that are here now have one assignment, and that is to protect one building, which is the federal building downtown. The second building, which is the federal building on Westwood Boulevard. And as far as I know, nothing has happened in Westwood at all. So this was not needed. The idea that the administration would usurp the authority of our state government, take it away from our governor, Gavin Newsom. The governor knows that if we put a request in for the National Guard and it went to him, he would comply. There was never an issue there because we were never thinking about.
That's not it. All right, so we have undocumented workers that are killed, that has killed. I don't want to use the word killed. They have ruined the lives of, they've unalived American citizens, okay? Unalived families. Families have lost loved ones because there was an undocumented, untrained driver. And American greed from all over the board played a part.
Hey everybody, Peter Zine here, coming to you from Austin, Texas, and today we're going to talk about everyone's favorite topic this election season, illegal migration. I've now down on record saying that if the United States hadn't had the wave of illegal migration that it had in calendar year 2023, about 2 million people, we'd probably be dealing with inflation north of 8% by now, so I figured that's worth a bit of an explanation. In most labor markets, you've got a degree of liquidity where workers can move from one subsector to another based on the economic moods and remunerations of the day. But for that to work, you can't be the United States. You see, here in the United States, the baby boomers are in the process of retiring. 2/3 of them have already gone, so we have a labor shortage. In addition, the United States is in the midst of a massive reindustrialization wave as we prepare for the end of the Chinese system. Basically, if we want manufactured product, we have to build it ourselves. So demand has never been higher and supply has been curtailed, so we no longer have that pool of labor that can shift from one thing to the other or be tapped in terms of building booms. And so anyone who is removed from the system immediately generates a pulse that goes through the entire network that drives prices higher. So yes, there were 2 million people who crossed illegally last year. Most of them are in the workforce, most here in Texas. And as for the folks that are residing here illegally, which based on whose numbers you're using are somewhere between 7 and 14 million, that's another huge chunk of the labor. I've now down on record saying that if the United States hadn't had the wave of illegal migration that it had in calendar year 2023, about 2 million people, we'd probably be dealing with inflation north of 8% by now, so I figured that's worth a bit of an explanation. In most labor markets, you've got a degree of liquidity where workers can move from one subsector to another based on the economic moods and remunerations of the day. But for that to work, you can't be the United States. You see, here in the United States, the baby boomers are in the process of retiring. 2/3 of them have already gone, so we have a labor shortage. In addition, the United States is in the midst of a massive reindustrialization wave as we prepare for the end of the Chinese system. Basically, if we want manufactured product, we have to build it ourselves. So demand has never been higher and supply has been curtailed, so we no longer have that pool of labor that can shift from one thing to the other or be tapped in terms of building booms. And so anyone who is removed from the system immediately generates a pulse that goes through the entire network that drives prices higher. So yes, there were 2 million people who crossed illegally last year. Most of them are in the workforce, most here in Texas. And as for the folks that are residing here illegally, which based on whose numbers you're using are somewhere between 7 and 14 million, that's another huge chunk of the labor force that actually outnumbers the number of folks the United States have who might theoretically be looking for jobs. Unemployment in the United States is
Wow, did you hear that?
force that actually outnumbers them in the workforce, most here in Texas. And as for the folks that are residing here illegally, which based on whose numbers you're using are somewhere between 7 and 14 million, that's another huge chunk of the labor force that actually outnumbers.
All right, so the number, because if you, depending on the numbers where you get your numbers from, you'll have that number between 2 and 20 million illegal people here who are working, right? And that's more than the working class, more than the people who are actually looking for work. That is crazy.
So yes, there were 2 million people who crossed illegally last year. Most of them are in the workforce, most here in Texas. And as for
And there's a good bit in Los Angeles. There is a good bit in New York. They are all over the place.
the folks that are residing here illegally, which based on whose numbers you're using are somewhere between 7 and 14 million, that's another huge chunk of the labor force that actually outnumbers the number of folks the United States have who might theoretically be looking for jobs. Unemployment in the United States is below 4%. We're at historical lows right now. So if you were to move some of the people who were working, we'd feel it immediately. Now, not all jobs are equal. These illegal migrants do tend to cluster in 3 general categories. The first one is healthcare, particularly when you're talking about something that's on the edge of a janitorial job, moving people, clearing bedpans, that sort of thing. The second is in construction, especially industrial construction, because remember, the United States is needing to double the industrial plant. That doesn't happen without building a lot of stuff. And third and finally, agriculture, particularly in fresh foods, whether it's vegetables or tree fruit. These last 2 are jobs that Americans just don't want to do or won't do or can't do. They're hot, they're heavy, they're outdoorsy working stuff. They're certainly not the sort of stuff that today's youth, especially Gen Z, is really interested in.
Let me tell you something, man. That is propaganda right there, because one thing that I do know for a fact, that if you paid people what it is worth, they will do the work. See, we gotta stop that. We gotta stop that. As Americans, we gotta stop saying that Americans don't work like that. Americans won't work like that. Americans won't work like that. That's bull. That's bull crap. Put a good number on it per hour. I bet the work get done. Put a good number on it per hour, and I bet the work will get done. What you're going to say? Well, the cost of the good will go up. Excellent. Because here's the thing as well, everything can't be for everybody. It just can't. It can't. Everything cannot be for everybody. Everybody just don't deserve to live in America. Everybody just doesn't deserve to have a certain fruit. Everybody doesn't deserve to have the certain cut of animals. Some people don't deserve steak. Somebody can't deserve a ribeye. Some people they just don't. They can't afford it. Ribeyes are expensive. A ribeye steak is expensive. A porterhouse steak is expensive. When I was growing up, we only ate crab legs on occasion. Occasionally, we had to go travel, 2 hours away to the beach and go get crab legs at the beach, go eat seafood, because crabs are expensive per pound. For the most part, man, and I was raised in the middle class, right? So we had a very modest take. We ate chicken throughout the week. Of course, we had our cuts of pork, certain cuts of pork, right? It's not like we had and then we mostly ate locally sourced fish. But like crab legs and steak, we ate that stuff on an occasion. So everything isn't for everybody, man. Everybody just don't you have everybody just they we want to say that everything should be affordable and can be affordable here, and it's just not true. It's just not true. Some things do have value to them, and some things are more valuable than others. Once upon a time, man, people used to